Hey, Dragon Metals here. Today I will be showing how to make green stuff molds and components. These are some I made earlier. As you can see, many small bits can be made. All these are Warhammer bits of various uses, backpacks, laser guns, little old style 90s Necron scarabs. Even got old Necromunda laser guns and handguns. Spec scanner in the middle, some ammo packs, scrubbles, even landing lights, vehicle lights, massive shield, tiny key, massive big book, don't have a big book, racks of swords, hatches, basically anything and any component you would need in Warhammer. I'll be making some components here and showing how to make fresh molds with these bits, an old style laser gun, laser pistol, and an old tank stowage crate Imperial Guard, which is now called Astra Militarum. Don't ask me why, they changed the name. I thought Imperial Guard was pretty appropriate, as they guarded the Imperial Temple and the Emperor of Man, incarcerated within it for eternity. So, not too difficult to make. All brush definitely required. This is actually virgin olive oil, so messy. But I do want to actually get some on my hands. Why? The reason is simple. It will help this green stuff not stick to my skin. So I have to work this. Pretty simple. You just squish the green and the blue side into each other as a mould. Well, the blue and yellowish green colour. And this will turn ever more green until it is fully green in shade. And then it'll be ready to make a mould with. Just want the top of that box there, actually, as a fact. I will have to shape this a bit neatly around the edges and whatnot, and it needs to be of an appropriate thickness also for the lid. So put it down, stretch it out a bit. So that looks a bit messy there, not fussed on that. Needs a ruler. A ruler nearby? Yes, I have. Of course I have. Pretty sure that was my school ruler from high school. I've had it a very long time, being as though I'm 32. As of a few days ago. Not that it means much to me. It's just another day. I should get a bit older. Gap there, sort of nice. Squish it a bit more squarely. I do want a nice looking mould after all. I already have lots and lots of moulds that I made those previous bits with. But going like that over the top, make it nice and shiny. So, got the piece now. This needs to be oiled. Just literally brushing oil over the top of it. Nice thickness upon there. It's needed. Otherwise the piece will generally stick inside of the mould and then you'll never release it. As you can see, there's lots of sort of crenulations and gaps and stuff on this crate lid. I think it'd be good for making hatches, as well as more lids. So I'll just push that into there. And then squish these sides back up using the ruler. Just want the pattern on the lid after all. This side's a little bit skew. Still fine. Might be a little bit difficult to remove even with the oil due to the strange sides. I need to peel that back a bit. Perfect. Now this will need to be left for a number of hours in order to dry enough for the bit to be removed. Ooh, it smells very olive oily. Extra virgin olive oil. It's good for the skin, I suppose. There's one bit ready. And I'll do the laser gun. That tiny one there. Look at the size of them laser guns. It's actually from the 90s, this tiny laser gun from Necromunda. So sort of old-fashioned Warhammer component. Probably worth quite a bit now. It's probably a fiver's worth of little tiny metal gun. They are very small after all. It is Halloween today, apparently. 31st of October. So there will be much spookiness, probably. Well, not so much. It's just about 25% chance of rain pretty much all day. And it's degrees. So, wintry as hell out there. And it's quite windy too. So, add wind chill to that. Nasty. So don't need too big a mould for this laser gun, unlike the large crate lid, which is actually a Lehman Russ tank ammo storage box. Well, for the old Lehman Russ tank, again. You generally only get plastic ones of these days, not metal. Just want to make some more rare. Also, as you can see, they're much better for replicating, copying, or cloning, whatever you want to use, whatever word. So, press that in. I actually have a mould of this laser gun already, but I require multiple moulds of this laser gun. So that way I can mass produce components using green stuff. Okay. Just making sure it's in there nicely. A little bit deeper on the edges. And on this top. Okay, probably going to be a little bit difficult to get all there, so I'll wait for it to dry considerably. It should take hours. Same for this one, the tank storage crate. It's actually very gummy, that is. So, I've got to make a load of components as well. Got some gas masks, a Imperial Aquila, an all-spec scanner, some crack grenades, and a massive backpack. So, some components as well, so I can show how it's done. After these dry for several hours, these components will be carefully removed using a pick, or just pick it out with your fingers, I suppose. Doesn't really matter how you extract them, as long as you're careful. Try not to cut into the mould, so don't use a very sharp knife, for example, like a scalpel or X-Acto blade, like used by many Warhammer people, collectors. I'll be finishing off a brood of Necron Tyranids after I've done this, so keep an eye out for that. It will be gangly and very, very alien looking. Also, I painted them really quite well. High Fleet Leviathan, so it'll be quite interesting looking. Also show how to base them. as I will be giving them funky bases. There's the crack grenades. There's 2 crack grenades in there. That'll peel off easily once dry. Leave this with the others. Still got that lump there to use, and I've saved another couple of lumps here, which will be for the crate lid and the little laser gun, which I will post in the thumbnail of the video and on my Dakka Dakka and Instagram. Find links to all of them in the description of the video. So, Aquila Eagle next. Always good for attaching to buildings, vehicles. Make perfect objective markers if painted gold and just stuck to a simple 25mm base. If you don't want to make more elaborate things like fuel dumps and whatnot. Sausage. Squish that out a bit. Now just push it on in there. Doesn't matter if it's quite thin, as long as it's not too thin, and you can still peel it off when it's dry. That's lovely. Used almost the perfect amount for that. That will be an Aquila Eagle when finished. That will look exactly like this one. Very cool. Come on, focus. I don't want to touch the phone for it to focus. Covered in oil. Try. There we go. That's what it'll look like when the edges are cut. That can be stuck to buildings, tanks and all sorts. Make very cool objectives. So, where was I? I was going to do some gas masks, I should think. These are actually a different kind of gas mask. In Warhammer, they can be used for many things, for drugs, for all sorts of drugs. Battle combat drugs, make you faster and stronger or tougher. Or they can alternatively be used for hazardous environments. Toxic worlds and such. Which, you know, is probably just a thing in the distant future. Polluted worlds and whatnot. So there's a gas mask ready. Got this big lump here as well. A lot of that will be used on this large backpack, as it is considerably large. If there's any tiny bits left, I'll just grab a mould out of my jars of moulds, right by there, and continue. All these bits will be released at a later time, unfilmed, where I will take pictures as I do it. And I'll also take pictures of the crate and the laser gun. That's a bit gonna get stuck in there, that is, unless I move the edges a bit. So like, there we go. Still nicely gummy. One of the little about millimetre gap around the edges for this. There is a slight lip on the crate. Nice big lump going here, as you can see. As you can see, it does change to green after you mix it together. As you can see, it's very stringy, but this does not last. After several hours of drying, this will turn into basically concrete. It's almost like resin. It's sufficiently mixed. Nice big lump for the backpack. And the edges also. Make a nice square. Okay. Squish that in there. Squished. Quite a bit left on that. I'll peel that off, as I don't need that much on the backpack. Does need a thin back also, as I'm going to have to trim the sprue, which will be different kind of sprue around the edges, but a sprue nonetheless. You can actually make a similar type stuff by dissolving sprue plastic inside of acetone. Don't recommend that. The fumes are brutal at best. As you are dissolving plastic in a chemical gunk of super high strength alcohol, rubbing alcohol, paint stripper level stuff, which you can like strip metals with. So very strong indeed. Don't recommend it. Green stuff is kind of cheap anyway. It's only about £10 for about 36 inches, something like that. Enough to make 4 or 5 times these amount of bits, or even something considerably larger. Perhaps a whole vehicle plate. Oh, it's very windy up there. I've got to go out in that later. Not for long though, being Halloween. Can be somewhat dangerous outside. Not that I care, but you know, a lot of people do, and they're paranoid, and that freaks me out. Because they're paranoid, if you get me. Sending out freaky, oh, they're gonna get me vibes. and then I'm thinking the same. So that happens this sort of night. Spooky pagan ritual that it is. I'm Welsh though, so there would have been a time where I would have participated in such an activity. Need a few of these because I still got that big lump left. Whoa, lots to choose from. I think I'll do a tank track and hubcaps. So some more scattery type terrain stuff instead. Tank track and hubcaps. Carefully move my camera. Tank track is from a Lehman Russ tank. You can still get all of these tank tracks sections, but generally the design of a Lehman Russ tank means all of the track is used. So this was taken before I built a Lehman Russ, which I have yet to paint. I'll probably be coming in the future. It's not enough on that. That's an issue. There we go. Tank tracks make a good scatter of bits for basing. And they also make good built-in shutters if linked together. And also debris. Bit like train bits, I suppose. Hubcaps, I'm doing next. These are actually hubcaps from an orc truck. Yeah. The old-fashioned orc truck. The little one, not the gigantic one with all them Mad Max bits on. And cranes and harpoon guns and stuff. What about the old-fashioned one with the wrecking ball? And the comical looking orcs. They were much funnier back in the 90s. Well, comical. As orcs must see the whole world in cartoon. the way they operate, and the way their technology doesn't and does operate. Because by all means, Orc technology shouldn't even work. It's run by will alone, you could say. They are funny as hell, the Orcs, in their strange ways. In the Warhammer world, it's quite funny. The green people, I guess. Enough nerdy talk. Back to making lots. Medium backpack here. It's the type that goes on a Space Marine Scout. I actually know all the names of pretty much all these components, which is helpful for buying and selling such things. Large backpack there. I think that would take that lump. Yeah. And then we'll be done. Put these molds back in the tube, which I've had a long time. These started off with just a couple, making a couple of bits that I needed, and then I bought a job lot and copied several hundred different bits, which would save me probably thousands and thousands of pounds, because these bits cost quite a bit. If you were to buy a plastic resin type version, it would probably set you back about £5 plus shipping, so several pound per bit. Whereas all of these bits, plus all of these bits, cost only about £7 for a dozen bits, maybe even 100 or more, depending on how small you make them. So there's all the moulds done. I'm very oily. Need to wipe that off if I touch the camera, or I'll kill it. De-oiled. Have a quick look at them close up. Oh. There's the crate, lid at least, the laser gun which will be picked out, and all the other molds. Let's have a look at what I made earlier again. You can see what they look like when they'll be finished. There's the laser gun that will be finished. It will come out of that mould. So it'll look quite cool when it's done. Big Orc spanner there, quite cool. Called the Big Spanner. Spanner with an A. Got a bedroll. Massive Imperial Storm Shield. Scrolls. Tiny bombs. There's a Grumpy Bone, which is a Tau Kroot edition. Kroot are like these race of barbaric sort of woodland reptile things. Strange universe, Warhammer. Got some medals there. That's a medal, that tiny thing there. A little gem that would be a gem in the middle. We've got a water bottle. There's the gas masks. That's what they will look like when done, next to that scarab. As will the tank track. Be good for scatter terrain. There's a base for what looks like a mortar. Yep, that's a mortar base, that strange cross-shaped thing. We've got a sword in a scabbard. Cool. Space Marine backpack. That looks like your generic modern type. There's the large backpack there, one that I made just now. And another medal. Tiny bullet. There's even a Mjolnir there, Thor's hammer. See it? Gotta have a Thor's hammer. A Necromunda style gun, some frag grenades and crack grenades below it, the roundy looking ones, crack and frag grenades. So there's a considerable amount here. Ooh, there's an old Space Marine backpack there, as you can see. Very cool. So, worth making molds of all your components, like so, in order to produce massive amounts of bits and save yourself lots and lots of money. Well, see you next time where I will be doing the Tyranids.